Hey, what's up everybody? It's Kayla back at you again with another video. This will be a little different than the last two I put out. I don't have a lot of money to actually go out and buy, new makeup to try every day. I know I did mention that I was trying that new Maybelline foundation and I'm actually wearing it right now. Quick review on that. It covers really well. I like it. I did end up having to mix it with like a little bit of a Neutrogena foundation that I use just because the shade was a little too light for me and I have to end up using like a lot of bronzer like to bring some color back into my pale skin. But I like it. It covers really well. I actually ended up forgetting to put on concealer today just because, of the coverage. And I was like, oh well, and not like this camera, shows a lot anyway. The, quality's terrible. But to get into the actual topic of today's video, I was in the process of moving a few, weeks ago, but unfortunately it fell through. And during the move process, I discovered this gem and it was something like really cringy from my teenage years. You read the title, Twilight Fanfiction. It's written down in this like notebook and it's falling apart and it's just terrible. It's like a Twilight OC kind of thing and it's just really bad. I'm not reading that one today, but after, graduating from like a notebook and discovering an actual fanfiction website, I started writing my own story. It's called Her Hidden Life and it's on fanfiction.net under Cullen Wannabe 00. I don't know. I really like Twilight, okay? I was the really weird kid in school that was really, really obsessed with Twilight. I went through a phase in 8th grade where I would literally like write, I would pick a quote. I would pick a Twilight quote for the day and I would write it on the top of all of my assignments. Who does that? Like what kid does that? Me. I was the kid that did that. But I digress. I learned to rein in my Twilight love as time went on. But I did start writing my own fan fiction. And I wrote like a whole script. Like, I'm fancy. I wrote a script. And I picked out a few passages that I could read to you guys today. They're really cringy. Like, I had this I'm not like other girls mentality for a little bit when I was in high school, or at least when I was writing for characters in high school. So I was 16 years old when I published this story on May 11th of 2011, and I kept working on it until July 25th of 2013, until I was almost 18 years old. I don't know like if my writing actually got any better. I haven't looked at this in years. But I wrote 17 chapters of this trash and 120 people favorited it and 139 people followed this story. I'm just going to assume that everyone in the Twilight fandom, like in that time period, was just like actual trash because it's just really bad. I will say the Twilight fandom on Tumblr right now is still alive and well. It's very small, but we just make really good shit posts. I mean, I don't make any, and I don't have a Twilight blog, but I follow a few, and their shit posts are just amazing. But here's the summary of Her Hidden Life that I wrote. Summary: all human, Isabella is queen bee of the mafia world, with the Cullen family eating her family's scraps and leftovers. When she goes to school as someone different, she falls in love with her enemy, Edward Cullen. How will his family – and hers – take their love? Rated M. I don't know why I rated it M, because I very clearly remember not knowing how to write a sex scene. I I didn't know how to write a sex scene when I was 15 years old because shockingly, I had never had sex. But I don't know. Maybe for violence? I don't. I only looked at the first chapter for this video, and I picked out, a few little like excerpts that I could read to y'all and cringe. Let's just share the cringe today, okay? Let's just share it. There's enough. There's plenty to go around. Please share my secondhand cringe. But the whole basis of the story, that the summary couldn't fit because you only get like this much space to write like a summary on fanfic.net. And the whole basis of it is it's like Hannah Montana meets Mafia. Isabella in the Mafia world is, Isabella. And then she goes to school as Bella to protect her identity and make sure like she doesn't get killed or like it's literally Hannah. I never thought of it literally until I was writing out like the script and looking at, the story again. I never thought of it as Hannah Montana meets Mafia, but here it is. Nobody asked for it, but here it is. So, this first little bit I'm reading is Bella's about to head to school. And I have this like ridiculous part about her car. And I think I just really wanted people to know how rich she really was. Ciao, Isabella, they called after me as I ran to the garage and climbed into my car. I had a white Nissan GTR R35 that I made sure was washed and waxed every weekend. Just because I had to act invisible most of the time didn't mean I was going to just not have a wonderful car. Who was my father kidding when he said he wanted Bella to drive a 2005 something or other? I could only roll my eyes for him at the thought. I don't even know what kind of car that is. I think I just Googled really nice cars or something like that. Like it's really bad. But I don't know. I like drive a 2006 right now and it's 2018. Like, come on, Isabella. A 2005 back in 2011 isn't that big of a deal. All right, so this next bit is so Bella's at school now, a private school with uniforms, and obviously I had to describe them. And I could literally, like, I spent a whole paragraph on the girls' uniforms, and like the boys' uniforms only got like a sentence at the end, which I think summarizes actual school uniforms and dress codes, like right now. Anyway, I had to wear a uniform, of course, like everyone else in the school. The girls had to wear a khaki skirt that was navy, white, and red plaid, which I thought was borderline skanky, and a white blouse. There was also a khaki blazer that the school's coat of arms that I had on the right pocket, but since it was only about a month away from summer, the jacket wasn't part of the dress code anymore. The school, however, didn't care much for shoes on the dress code. A girl could wear whatever shoes she wanted as long as she was wearing knee-high white socks. Most girls, along with myself, opted to wear a pair of heels with the skirt. It wasn't like I was trying to objectify myself or anything, but if almost every other girl in the school was wearing heels and I wanted to look invisible, I needed heels. But sometimes I swore the girl dress code was the male fantasy of primetime jailbait. I don't know. I'm sorry for thinking of those words when I was a child. I'm sorry for writing them. I'm sorry for publishing them on the internet. And I'm sorry for reading them to you now. uh, then here comes the lunch scene. No explanation needed, and you'll understand why. I sat with Angela Weber, Ben Chaney, Eric Yorkie, and for some reason, football superstar Mike Newton sat with us. Mike was the typical jock type who knew people thought he was awesome, so that made him cocky. He should be sitting with the cheerleaders Jessica Stanley and Lauren Mallory, and with his football friends Tyler Crowley and Lee Stevens. But for some odd reason, I attracted him, and pretty much everyone else with a dick. Excuse me for having killer genes. Bella was hot and she needed you to know it. I needed you to know that this girl was just dead gorgeous. Just, she attracted every guy. Every guy that was around her. She was just that hot. Even in probably a blonde wig. This was 2011, and I didn't even know what a lace front wig was. So you know that thing came from Party City, okay? This last little bit that I picked out because I didn't want this to run on way too long, and it's already 11 minutes. So this is the last little bit I picked. And the context for this paragraph, Isabella is narrating her weekend plans and goes on to talk about how hot she is in owning a gun because she's in the mafia and she needed you to know that she was dangerous and had a gun. She was just hot and dangerous, dangerous and hot. Don't forget. Just don't forget. Oh, goodness. Saturday, I was going to spend my all day. We're going to start over with that, okay? Saturday, I was going to spend all day at my beach. She had a private beach, by the way. She lived on Lake Michigan because this takes place in Chicago, not Little Forks, Washington, okay? And she lived on like a beach. So Saturday, I was going to spend all day at my beach with Alice and Rosalie. I was happy to have a girls' day and stuff. Of course, random guys would stumble onto our land, and that was when I would whip out my gun. Yes, I owned a gun. It was a rite of passage almost in my family. No matter your gender or size, you would receive a gun on your 14th birthday. Even though my mom married into the family, she even had a gun. Renee kept hers safely hidden in a holster that wrapped around her upper thigh. And since my mother always wore dresses, no one knew she had a gun and knew fully well how to fire the thing. I wrote the thing. I called a gun a thing. So that's all I have for you today. I'm sure if I could edit and, work some magic on a computer, I'd be able to, show you a little bit more. But that's all I have for now. I think I'll bring this back just because I just really like reliving how bad of an author I was. And I just enjoy a good cringe, on the internet. So if you like what I, did here, go ahead and hit like and subscribe and all that fun stuff that you hear from every other person that posts a YouTube video, okay? Okay. That's all I got.